Welcome to the Engel Angle podcast. You know me. I am Fort Worth Star-Telegram columnist Mac Engel. This is a special edition of the Engel Angle. Normally I do these every other week, but this is going to be a little bit different because I lined up an interview with a guest I wasn't necessarily expecting. So I'm going to do two in a row. Now, before I get to that, I had a thought that I wanted to share because I think there is a point that we are missing in this ever ongoing debate about safety in sports. Now, I'm 49 years old, and I am fighting like hell tennis and golf. I have nothing against tennis, nothing against golf. They're great sports. I enjoy playing them. I suck at golf. I can run around and kind of bluff my way through a game of tennis. Golf, I can't. I can't state strongly enough just how bad I am at golf. Golf courses close when they see me coming towards the front entry. Now, I know I will get to a point, and I'm probably closer to it than I want to admit, when those are going to be the sports that I have to play, because my body will not allow me eventually to play the game that I want to play, which is basketball. I want to play basketball all the time. Now, I know for those of you who are looking at me, you would say, wow, I bet you're not very good at basketball. You'd be right. But I can run, and it keeps me in shape. And I get to brag to myself that I'm playing a game of basketball against 20-year-olds. And that I can run up and down and every now and then make a play or two or three and hopefully not embarrass myself. I'm right on that line. And I've had injuries playing basketball. The type of injuries that you would say to yourself, dude, what are you doing? You're too old to do this. You need to play tennis. You need to play golf. No, I don't. It's one of the reasons I had surgery on my neck was so I could get back to playing without fear of catastrophic injury. That's how badly I wanted to play. And that's how badly people want to play the sports that are not safe, the sports that are currently under quasi-investigations because they're so dangerous. Talking about football, I'm talking about basketball, I'm talking about hockey, I'm talking about boxing. And the problem with all those sports is they're fun. I've boxed. It's a lot of fun. It's crazy, but it's a lot of fun. Hockey is conceptually a terrible idea. You're on ice skates. Those skates are cut your throat sharp. Shout out to you, Clinton Malarchik. That's a pretty obscure reference. If you get that one, shout out to you guys. They're flying around with sticks. That's a terrible idea. Of course you're going to get hurt. And then we're surprised, like, oh my God, the guy had a concussion. Yeah, well, no kidding. Oh my God, I can't believe he tore his ACL. Oh my God, I can't believe he can't spell his own name 15 years after he played. Yeah, that's going to happen. What did you think was going to happen? Good things, and yet they all play because it's fun. You can go around and find beer leagues all over this country, grown men playing hockey. People would play football if they could because it's so much fun. A couple of years ago, I had the opportunity to interview Kyler Murray. Now, Kyler Murray was a two-sport athlete at the University of Oklahoma. He had just won the Davey O'Brien Award, and he had been drafted by the Oakland A's in the first round. And he was going to be drafted in the first round of the NFL. We weren't sure where at the time. But he had made it known that his preference was to play football. Anybody would sit there and say, why would you play pro football when you can go play pro baseball and play longer and probably even make more money? He wanted to play football. Why? Because it's fun. That's why he wanted to do it. All these people know the risks now more than ever. And it's one thing to say, you know what the risk is? Yeah, I know the risk. It's quite another to actually live out what the consequences of those risks are. It's totally different. And typically people can't see that in the moment when they're like, yeah, I know the risk. Well, Kyler does. This entire generation of athlete knows the risk. This entire generation of recreational warrior weekend type losers like me, I know the risk. I'm like, no, I want to play. So I'm going to go play basketball. And people are going to go play these sports because they are ultimately so much fun. It's probably one of the bigger reasons why my guest on this current episode played football. Now, everybody knows, if you've seen the headline, who my guest is. And this is truly one of the great and most inspiring stories in the NFL that we've had in the last 20 years or so. He played his college ball at Minnesota State. Minnesota State, okay? Minnesota State is the college where Craig T. Nelson coached in a television show. Minnesota State, not the University of Minnesota, Minnesota State. This guy was a nobody coming out of college. Nobody. And he got a tryout with the Minnesota Vikings. He eventually wound up as a practice squad player. You're not even on the roster. You're a practice squad guy. He worked his way onto the Vikings active roster. That's impossible. To come from undrafted Minnesota State guy to practice squad to the active squad is impossible. He did it. And then Adam Thielen went on to become one of the NFL's great success stories. He played 9 seasons with the Minnesota Vikings from 2014 to 2022. He was a Pro Bowler twice, and he recently signed a contract to play with the Carolina Panthers beginning this season. He's also currently scheduled to play in the Celebrity Classic PJ event in Irving, Texas. He's a hell of a golfer, and his story is truly inspiring. Please welcome the one and the only Mr. Adam Thielen. All right, so you're coming to DFW to play golf, and I am always fascinated to watch top-end professional athletes give their shot at a game that drives even the best players in the world absolutely crazy. So, Adam, exactly how good is your golf game?
It's extremely average. I'm definitely not a professional, but I love the game. I love playing. I love trying to perfect it. I love the mental part of the game. And ultimately, I love to compete. That's my favorite thing is to play in these celebrity tournaments and to go out there and really compete.
You said average. What's your idea of average? Like 75, 82, 94? What?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm in the 70s, it's a good day. And if I'm in the 80s, it's a really bad day. So it's somewhere usually in the mid 70s. But there's some days where I can get to the low 70s. I'm a zero handicap, but definitely not as good as my handicap. I'm like the reverse sandbagger.
You ever hit a hole in one?
I have zero hole in ones.
Favorite course you've ever played?
Augusta.
Oh, really? How did you do there?
I did not. I don't really remember. I was kind of just in awe, so I'm not exactly sure what I shot. I think it was probably low 80s.
That's great.
Um, but it was one of the best experiences in my kind of golf world. It was one of the best experiences I've ever had in that kind of realm, which is pretty cool.
Are you used to? You're a professional athlete, played in the NFL for several years now. You're used to playing in front of 60,000 fans and that atmosphere. Uh, have you played multiple times with an audience watching you play golf? Like a real audience, not just your buddies, but a real audience.
Yeah, I mean, obviously playing in these celebrity tournaments now, it's more and more comfortable every time I play in one. In fact, it honestly makes me play better. I love that part of the game. I love the competitive aspect where everyone knows what you're shooting. When you go play on a Friday afternoon with your buddies, the only people that know what you shot are your buddies and you. But when you go out there and you're doing it in competition, all your friends are looking at the scores. A lot of people are saying, "Oh, who is good at golf that plays in the NFL or plays professional sports?" And so everybody knows what you shot on those days. So it makes it for me. It makes me dial in a little bit more, practice a little bit before I play, and give it my best shot.
Is it scary? I've talked to pro athletes who are accustomed to playing in front of crowds, but they have all said playing a golf round in front of an audience can be really unnerving. Is it unnerving for you at all?
No, it's exciting, and that's probably the hardest part because you get a little bit of adrenaline, you get a little bit, your heart rate goes up a little bit, but I wouldn't say I ever get like nervous. It's more so just excited and amped up, and obviously a little bit of tensed up because you want to hit a good shot, but I definitely, for me, it's not necessarily nerves.
Who is the best golfer who is not a professional golfer or was not a professional golfer that you've played against? A guy that you played against was like, wow, this guy's damn good.
Probably Marty Fish.
The tennis player?
Yeah,
Wow, I didn't
yeah.
know that. Okay. In regards to golf, you said you got to play the course that everybody wants to play. You got on Augusta, Adam. What's your bucket list course or courses left that you really want to play?
Yeah, to be honest with you, I'm not really a bucket list golf course guy. Like I'm not a guy who like has a bunch of courses that I want to play. I just love to go and compete. So it's more so tournaments. Like I would love to play in a big tournament someday, you know, in a professional tournament at some point. But I love doing the celebrity tournaments. As many years as I can get in those celebrity tournaments, I'm going to take advantage of that. But there is one place probably. I mean, I'd love to play Pebble Beach someday. I'd love to go overseas at some point in my life. I'd love to go and play St. Andrews and some of those courses over there. And then just kind of knock off a few here and there. But for me, again, like as long as I got a course to play and I got some buddies and I can go compete, playing some tournaments, I'm good.
Adam, you're a story that I think anybody would love because nobody knew who you were necessarily coming out of college unless they were familiar with your college career specifically because you didn't go to a big school. When in your timeline and your evolution as a player in the NFL, did you realize and appreciate just how hard it is to do what you did, make it as an NFL player? Just how hard that is. The odds are so bad to do what you've done.
Yeah, honestly, I think it's one of those things where I'll look back at it when I'm done playing and I'm retired and kind of realize that. But for right now, like I just don't think about those things. I'm just enjoying going to work. Even starting up back and being with a new team. I've had so much fun the last few days, just kind of getting back to work and learning a playbook again and meeting new teammates and just talking ball. So there's just not. I just don't really think about the odds of making it, the little details along the way of getting to where I am. But I think someday I'll be able to look back at it, and it'll probably honestly make me more nervous than I am when I'm actually going through the journey.
When you were in college, because most college guys who play basketball or baseball or football, they all want to play pro ball. All of them do, and obviously you had the itch. You wanted to pursue it. At what point, Adam, did you think, or did somebody tell you you might be able to get a look and you might be able to catch on? Were you a junior or senior?
Never. For me, honestly, I don't think anybody believed that I could play at the next level. For me, it was just I was just going to focus on each day. I remember, just every day, just trying to give it everything I had. And whether that be in the weight room, whether that be in practice, and then just focusing on the games and my teammates and winning football games, and then just trying to put up numbers each week and try to help my team win. And then when I got done with college and I was able to kind of take a step back and say, okay, my college career is over. Now what? And then I kind of was able to put a plan together and say, hey, I'm going to give this a shot. I'm going to give everything I have. I'm going to change my nutrition. I'm going to work my butt off. I'm going to give everything I had. So if I don't make it, I'm good with that because I gave everything I had. And if I do, great. And so I did that and just never have looked back.
Adam, any place on that timeline, because it sounds to me like you're pretty organized, but any place on that timeline that a family member, maybe a trusted loved one say, hey, Adam, what you're trying to do is really tough. A lot of great players don't make it. What's your plan B? Did that ever come up?
Yeah, my wife. The moment I came back, I remember coming back to the apartment and going over to my wife's place. She was my girlfriend at the time, and I told her, I said, "Hey, I'm gonna go give this a shot. There's this combine coming up. I'm gonna train my butt off. I'm gonna finish up school, and I'm gonna go try to make an impression." And she kind of looked at me like, "Are you sure you don't just want to like go into the real world and just start working on that?" And we kind of laugh about it to this day. But I definitely had a plan B. I mean, I was going to job interviews as I was training, and I was going and trying to get my resume out there and trying to use some resources that I had to try to get a job. So there definitely was a plan B in place.
At what point in those training camps, maybe preseason games, you had to have a moment where the light clicked on, where you realized, because I think everybody who's been in your situation goes through this, when, Adam, you realized, I can play with these guys. You had to have that moment where it clicked. You're like, I can do this. When was that?
Yeah, I think honestly, there's not. I don't think, and maybe I'm not speaking. I shouldn't speak for other people, but I don't think there's a point where you're like, oh, I can do this. I think it's just you kind of build confidence over time, right? And everything you do, whether that's in OTAs, you're like, oh, made some plays, like I'm doing pretty well. And then you kind of go to training camp, and you're like, oh, I'm hanging around, like I'm good. And then kind of that next step is preseason games, right? When you're actually competing against other teams and you start to make plays there. And maybe they're not the starters, but you're still kind of competing against some really talented players. And then I think for me, it really helped to have a year of practice squad where I was going against a starter every single day in practice, and I was able to say then like, hey, like, yeah, it's not game day, but I'm going against a starter in practice every day, and I got no issue. Like I'm doing great. I'm making plays. I'm beating a starter in the NFL. Um, I think I can do this. And then again, you just kind of continue to build confidence. The more opportunity you get, the more you go against real starters in game situations, you just get more confidence. So I think it's just something that's developed over time. It's not just a moment.
When you look back on it, what did you quickly learn about playing in the NFL that is really, really hard that never occurred to you when you were a fan playing high school or playing college ball? Something that it never occurred to me. It never occurred to you. But once you were playing, you're like, oh my God, this part of the game is incredibly difficult.
Well, I guess I didn't realize probably how difficult it really is to get an opportunity. There's so many guys that are talented, and there's just not a lot of spots, right? And sometimes when you look at it, you don't realize that there's just there's three guys essentially, three receivers on each team that actually play in a game. Maybe four, and then the other guys that are maybe on the roster are mostly playing special teams. And so you just don't realize how hard it is to crack that three-man roster, basically three guys that are playing. You just don't realize it by watching on TV. And you watch it on TV, you think about all the greats, the great players, and you think about all the different teams and guys on different teams. You just feel like there's a lot more guys than there actually is. But when you get on a team, you start sitting in those rooms. You sit in a receiver room with 12 guys, and they're all extremely talented and can make plays. You start realizing how difficult it is to be a starter, to be able to get those opportunities, and it's pretty crazy.
I always love talking to players about this because they always have great answers. And that is, what was your welcome to the NFL moment? It's either a catch, a hit, something where you're like, oh my God, I'm here. And sometimes it's guys getting hit by Ray Lewis, something along those lines. Did you have one of those, Adam?
I didn't. Definitely not a. I will say this. I think I still look back to my first ever game where I suited up and just how surreal the feeling that was. Preseason games are obviously great, and a really cool moment. But that first NFL game, there's just something special about it, especially when you're putting on a jersey that looks very similar to the one that your idols wore. Chris Carter, Randy Moss, Jake Reed, Dante Culver. Some of those guys that I grew up watching. It's the same jersey. I'm putting it on to play in a real NFL game. That was definitely like my welcome to the NFL moment. So I'll still remember that game in St. Louis, and pretty cool.
I there's somebody out there right now looking at you, Division two, NAIA, one AA, whatever, who sits there and says, if that guy can do it, I can do it. What advice would you give to those players? Because you talked about it, just how hard it is just to get a look, just a look. What advice would you give to that kid today who wants to be Adam Thielen?
Yeah, I think the biggest piece of advice I can give is kind of what I told you earlier about my mindset when I was trying to make it was, hey, I'm going to give everything I have. I'm going to do the little things. I'm going to train the right way. I'm going to make some serious sacrifices in my nutrition. I'm going to give everything I have for a few months right here, leading up to an opportunity, and see what happens. And if it doesn't work, I think anybody can look at that and say, hey, I give it everything I have. I'm good with that. I'll move on. I'll do something else. And if you do make it, great. And then you figure out how to make that next step. But But I think it really comes down to, like I said, it's really difficult to get those opportunities to make it. So if you can just give everything you have and do those little details, you can be okay with any of the results that happen.
I don't know if you saw this, but a couple years ago, Adam, Tom Brady found, I guess, in a dresser drawer, a copy of his resume that he had prepared to send out to businesses if football didn't work out. I think it's safe to say football worked out okay for Tom Brady. Were you in the same spot? Like when you said you were looking for what other kind of jobs? Like if football hadn't worked out, Adam, what would you be doing today?
That's a great question. I was trying to figure that out. I had a resume. I was sending it out. I was doing job interviews. I remember the one I had was with Patterson Dental, and I remember the in the job interview. I remember them asking me a question, and they said, if you could do any job you possibly want, your dream job, what would it be? And I didn't, without hesitation, I said play in the NFL, and we kind of both chuckled. And then it's kind of a cool thing to look back at. But I definitely remember those job interviews, trying to make sure that I had something just in case it didn't work out.
Adam, I'm just curious, is this the first time you've ever lived outside the state of Minnesota?
Not the first time I've lived outside the state of Minnesota, but definitely for an extended period of time. We've spent the off seasons, either in Florida or Arizona or California. So we've kind of checked out different areas for maybe a month or 2 months at a time. But definitely the first time being out of Minnesota with kind of, for an extended period of time.
Last question I'm going to ask you. I don't know if I've ever asked a pro athlete this. Say a kid or a fan wants an autograph. What's the best way for a fan to get an autograph? I'm not talking about the guy looking to, get Adam Thielen's name on a Vikings jersey and go sell it for $100 on eBay or 200, whatever it is. If a little kid wants to get an autograph, Adam, what's the best way for a fan to get an autograph from a pro football player these days?
Well, hopefully run into me somewhere. That's been okay. And hopefully if that happens and there's a kid, I'm gonna make an opportunity. I'm gonna make sure that I sign something for a kid, no matter what I'm doing. Now as an adult and I'm busy and I got my kids and stuff. Probably not gonna make time for that, but
what's the age line where it's too weird? We're like, yeah, I'm not doing that.
I mean, probably past college.
Okay.
But I still do it. I definitely do it. But it just when there's a kid, I'm gonna make sure I do it. And if it's anything else, if I'm by myself or something, I'll do it. But if I'm with my family, I'm probably not gonna do it unless it's a kid. But there's also other ways to get autographs. Nowadays, we do a bunch of autograph signings where we'll sign a bunch of things and then that company will go sell it online, and it's great stuff. So there's also that ability. If you really want one bad enough, you can find a way to get one.
I have one more. Have you gotten an autograph of a player since you joined the Vikings? Like, because I see guys get autographs sometimes of Tom Brady when he was walking off the field after a game. Have you scored one of those from anybody yet?
So, I mean, I guess you could consider like a jersey swap.
Yeah.
At that, I love doing that, especially guys that I've gotten to know off the field, built a ton of respect for, friends, maybe guys I've played with before. So that's definitely something I love to do is jersey swap with guys that I have a lot of respect for, and then I hang them up on my jersey wall and have actually a lot more that I don't have hung up that I keep to remember a lot of great people that I played with or played against.
Now, do you have to buy that jersey? I never did figure that out. Does you have to send the NFL a check for $100 or give the other guy $200 to cover? Like, do you have to buy those?
Well, essentially you're jersey swapping. So
okay, so it's a wash.
You're paying for your jersey,
got it,
essentially. But
okay.
Yeah, so I guess maybe a couple bucks comes out every time you do that, but totally worth it.
Adam, I can't thank you enough for your time. I wish you the very best of success with your new tenure with the Carolina Panthers and when you come to town to play in the celebrity golf tournament. Let's shoot us a record 65. Is that okay? Is the 65 okay?
I'll try my best. Hopefully it's 65 on 18, not like 9.
Okay. Adam, thanks a lot for your time. Good luck.
All right, appreciate it. Take care.